This week we're going to look at control structures in PHP. So let's start by creating a new project, and I'm going to call it week 4 in my CIS 195P folder. And I'm going to use this window again. So we're going to start with the if statement, which is an example of selection. You might have heard that referred to as alternation as well. It's selecting from different alternatives. And so I'm going to call this selection.php. So let's make a simple page that takes a student's score in the class and returns a letter grade for that student. And so I'm going to use a get parameter to pass the score in, and then I'm going to write some HTML that displays the student score. So first I'm going to create a constant for the name of that get parameter. And I'm going to say define score, and we'll give the name of the parameter, for example, score. And then let's just output the score. So echo, the score is, and I'll say $ under get of score. And then let's try that out. So I'm going to open that page. Go ahead and so we're in week 4, selection.php. And so I get an error because I haven't specified a score parameter. So let's go ahead and specify a score. Let's say it's 75. And I get the output, the score is 75. But what if the score hasn't been specified? Well, we saw how to use isSet already in order to check that. So let's go ahead and say score is equal to isSet $ under get sub score. And then if it is set, we'll go ahead and return the score. Otherwise, we'll return some default value, like so. And we can also turn this into an integer or a float. And then instead of getting the score again, we'll just use score here. And so now if we hit reload, it should work. But it says the score is 0. And if I go ahead and set the score to 75 again, it says the score is 75. So this works, but what if we don't want to have a default value? What if we want to just give an error message that says, hey, you need to supply a score here? Well, that's a good use for an if statement. So there's a couple of different ways of structuring this, but the simplest way is something like the following. So I'm going to say if, and then I'm going to say not is set $ under get score. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to echo, let's make it a level 1 header. So I'm going to output just that piece of text. And then after I've done that, I don't want to do anything else in the script. So I just want to kick out right there without adding any other HTML. And I'm going to use the exit statement to do that. So now watch what happens. So if I've specified a score like score is 75, it says the score is 75. But if I don't specify a score, what I get is this header that says I need to specify the score for the student. So this is a quick way of doing some input validation before your main body of code using just an if statement. And you can have as many checks as you want. So for example, I might want to have one for if is set $score, and then if it is, I always execute that line. I don't need to do the check again because I know that it's set. But what if it's not a number? So let's set score equal to $under get subscore, and then we'll check if not is numeric $score. So this means they've supplied a score, but they haven't supplied something that's a number. And then we're going to repeat this code here, but change the error message. So let's try it. So I need to specify a score for this student. And then I say score is 75 points, which is not a number. Score must be a number. So if I get rid of points and try it again, now it works correctly. So I'm checking two different conditions before I execute the main body of the code. So now if I get here, I know that I have both an input value and a numeric value. And now I can do something a little more complicated. So let's determine whether the student has passed or not. Well, this time I'm going to use an if-else. So if $score greater than or equal to 75, let's say that's a passing score. And here I'm not going to exit, I'm just going to output that line. Else, if the score is not greater than or equal to 75, I'm going to output that the student failed. Okay. Now notice the way I'm indenting this and putting the else on the same line as the brackets and space here and so on. This is the same standard that they use on PHP.NET, and it's called PSR2, which is PHP Standards Recommendation 2. There's a link to it at the bottom of the reading for this term. But we'll be looking at this in a later video. For now, just know that this is the format that I want you to use for your if statements and so on. So now let's go ahead and run the code. So if it's 75, the student passed. If I don't include it, I get my error message. If I put something that isn't a number, score must be a number. And if it's less than 75, student failed. So that's for pass-fail. Now I can also use an if statement to calculate the letter grade. And here, what I want to do is use elseif. So I'm going to say if score greater than or equal to 90, then grade is A, else if, and actually I need a space here, score greater than or equal to 80, then grade is B, and I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste this. So 80, 70, 60, 50, or else. So 80, 70, 60, and this is just going to be an else here. And this is C, D, F. And I guess to make it consistent, I'll make this greater than or equal to 70 here. So this is going to start at the top, and it's going to check the first condition. So if score is greater than or equal to 90, it will set grade to A, and then drop out of the if statement. So it drops all the way down to the end. If score is not greater than or equal to 90, it's going to try testing this clause. It'll say score greater than or equal to 80. If that's true, it's going to execute this statement and then drop all the way to the end. If it's false, then it tries this one, and ultimately, if none of these ones here are true, then it's going to execute this else clause and set grade equal to F, and then drop out. So now that we know the student's grade, we can output like so. So this will both output whether the student passed or failed for a pass-fail student, and it will output the student's letter grade. So we'll go ahead and reload. So 70 is now a passing grade with C. 60 is fail for pass-fail, but it's a D for letter grade. And we'll try 85 is passing with a D. So now we can also use an if statement on the outside. So let's go ahead and also include whether the student was pass, fail, or letter grade. So we'll include and type is letter or type is pass, fail. So if it's a letter grade student, go ahead and define type is type So now the type parameter will either be letter or pass-fail, PF, for letter grade or pass-fail. And then we're going to use an if statement on the outside here. So first let's check and make sure it's set. So I'm going to copy this and make sure that they've included a grade type. And then we'll also check and make sure that it's either pass, fail, or letter. So let's set grade type to $ under get of type, and then we'll say if grade type not equal letter grade and grade type not equal pass-fail, then we know we have an invalid grade type. So we'll go ahead and tell the user that. So if we get here, we know they've supplied a valid grade type. But then I'm going to wrap this whole thing inside of another if statement. So if grade type equal pass-fail, then I'm going to do this one, else I'm going to do this one. So if they're pass-fail student, I say whether they passed or failed. If they're a letter grade student, I'll leave this up here, I'm going to give them the letter grade. So let's try it with no type parameter specified. I need to specify a grade type. So type is audit. Grade type must be either letter or PF. So let's try letter. Student's grade is a B, and let's type PF. Student passed. So that should be most of what you need to know about if statements. One thing to keep in mind is in PHP, elseif is one word. You can actually get the same effect by saying else space if. Means the same thing, but syntactically it's actually a little different. So I recommend generally using elseif in PHP. And there's also an alternate syntax for all of the controls that we'll be looking at using colons instead of curly brackets. And we'll look at that in a separate video as well.